Seth Rollins just crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. And if you think what happened on Monday Night Raw was just another storyline twist, you haven't been paying attention to the nuclear fallout that's about to consume the entire WWE universe. This isn't just betrayal. This is personal. This is career-ending. And the most shocking part? The two men we thought would never stand side by side again just became the most dangerous alliance in professional wrestling. Let me be crystal clear about something before we go any further. What Seth Rollins did on Raw wasn't just a heel turn. It wasn't just a surprise attack. It was a calculated assassination attempt on everything the Shield ever stood for. And brother, the consequences of his actions just brought Jon Moxley back to WWE and reunited him with Roman Reigns in a moment that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Seth didn't just attack someone random. He didn't just turn on a tag team partner. Seth Rollins looked Jon Moxley, dead in the eyes during what was supposed to be a Shield reunion segment, and delivered the most vicious curb stomp we've seen in years. And the worst part? Roman was laid out backstage, attacked before he could even make it to the ring. Seth orchestrated the whole thing. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room that WWE doesn't want you thinking about. Jon Moxley has been in AEW. He's been on top of the wrestling world outside of WWE. He's been doing the best work of his entire career, and everyone assumed he would never return to Vince McMahon's company. But when Seth Rollins crossed that line, when he attacked Moxley with the kind of brutality that left him unconscious in the middle of that ring, something changed. Triple H made a phone call, and Moxley answered. The next week on Raw, we got what might be the most intense opening segment in years. Roman Reigns walked out to that ring, microphone in hand, and the crowd didn't know whether to cheer or boo. The tribal chief has been on an absolute tear, but everyone knew he was about to address the betrayal. Everyone knew he was hurt. Everyone knew that Seth Rollins had just blown up the most legendary faction in modern WWE history. Roman stood there in complete silence for what felt like an eternity. And then he said the words that made the entire arena erupt. Seth, you made the biggest mistake of your life. Because you didn't just betray me. You didn't just betray the Shield. You betrayed him. And that's when the lights went out. When they came back on, Jon Moxley was standing at the top of the ramp. Not Dean Ambrose. Jon Moxley. In his gear. With that look in his eyes that says someone's about to get hurt. The place exploded. People were crying. People were screaming. Social media broke. Because the impossible just happened. The man who swore he'd never come back just walked through that curtain. Moxley walked down that ramp slowly, deliberately, never taking his eyes off Roman. And when he got in that ring, the two men who built an empire together, who conquered WWE together, who then went their separate ways and became megastars in their own right, stood face to face. The tension was unbearable. Would they fight? Would they embrace? What was about to happen? And then Moxley extended his hand. Roman looked at that hand for what felt like forever. The crowd was losing their minds, chanting "This is awesome" so loud you couldn't hear yourself think. And then Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the table, grabbed Moxley's hand and pulled him in for the most emotional embrace we've seen in WWE in years. Brothers reunited. Not because of nostalgia. Not because of merchandise sales. But because Seth Rollins forced their hand. Now here's where this story gets even more compelling. Seth Rollins didn't just wake up one day and decide to destroy the Shield. Oh no. This was planned. This was calculated. And the reasons behind it are what make this betrayal so much more devastating. Seth has been living in the shadow of his Shield brothers for years. While Roman became the tribal chief and main event WrestleMania after WrestleMania, while Moxley left and became the face of AEW, Seth has been stuck in the midcard. Yeah, he's had championship runs. Yeah, he's had classic matches. But has he been the guy? Has he been the undisputed number one? No. And that's been eating him alive. In a backstage interview that sent shockwaves through the wrestling world, Seth laid it all out. He talked about how he was always the workhorse. How he was the one carrying matches. How he was the architect of the Shield's success, but Roman and Dean got all the glory. He talked about how when Moxley left WWE, he didn't even say goodbye to Seth. How Roman turned his back on Seth during the pandemic. How he's been alone this entire time while his brothers became legends. And you know what? He's not entirely wrong. That's what makes this so brilliant. Seth Rollins has a point. He has been overlooked. He has been underappreciated, but the way he went about this? Unforgivable. The Raw after the reunion was must-see television. Roman and Moxley came out together, wearing matching Shield tactical gear, looking like they were ready for war. And they issued a challenge that shook WWE to its core. Seth Rollins and a partner of his choosing versus Roman Reigns and Jon Moxley at the next pay-per-view. Winner takes all. Career versus career. The ultimate stakes. But here's the twist that nobody predicted. Seth didn't choose just anyone as his partner. He didn't grab a random heel from the back. Seth Rollins aligned himself with the one man who could match the star power of Roman and Moxley combined. Seth Rollins brought in Cody Rhodes. Think about it. Cody has his own complicated history with the Shield. He's been battling Roman for supremacy. He's been trying to finish his story. And Seth just offered him the opportunity to take down two of the biggest names in wrestling at the same time. From a strategic standpoint, it's genius. From a storyline perspective, it's explosive. And from a match quality standpoint, we're looking at a potential match of the year candidate. The promo battles that followed were incredible. Roman and Moxley brought up every single betrayal from Seth's past. They talked about how he turned on them the first time with the Authority. They brought up every championship Seth won because Roman and Dean built him up. They dissected him week after week, and Seth was seething. But Seth and Cody fired back just as hard. They talked about how Roman has become everything he once hated, a corporate champion who needs his family to fight his battles. They called out Moxley for abandoning WWE when things got tough. They painted Roman and Moxley as hypocrites who were only reuniting because they needed each other, not because they wanted to. The tension has been building week after week. We've seen backstage brawls that required dozens of security guards to break up. We've seen contract signings that ended in chaos. We've seen both teams cost each other matches, attack each other's family members, and cut promos so intense that even the announce team didn't know what to say. And now we're just days away from the pay-per-view. The match that will determine the future of not just these four men, but potentially the entire landscape of WWE. Because make no mistake, whoever wins this match will have all the momentum. Whoever wins this match will be untouchable. And whoever loses, their careers might be over. Let's talk about the match stipulation for a second, because it's brutal. This isn't just a regular tag team match. This is a last man standing tag team match. Both members of one team must be unable to answer a 10 count for the match to end. There are no pinfalls. There are no submissions. You have to destroy your opponents so completely that they cannot physically stand up. Do you understand how insane that is? We're talking about four of the toughest, most resilient wrestlers in the world. Roman Reigns has kicked out of everything. Jon Moxley has been through literal barbed wire death matches. Seth Rollins is one of the most durable performers in WWE history. And Cody Rhodes finished a Hell in a Cell match with a torn pec. These men do not stay down. So how do you keep all of them down? The psychology of this match is going to be fascinating. Do Roman and Moxley try to isolate Seth and take him out first, eliminating the man who betrayed them before dealing with Cody? Do Seth and Cody target Moxley, knowing he's been away from WWE and might not be in the same rhythm? Or does everyone just go to war from the opening bell and let chaos reign? Here's my prediction, and you can screenshot this if you want. This match is going to be an absolute bloodbath. We're going to see tables broken. We're going to see chairs bent. We're going to see moves that make you stand up out of your seat. But more importantly, we're going to see the Shield bomb. That's right. Roman and Moxley are going to hit the Shield's signature move on Seth Rollins through the announce table, and it's going to be the most cathartic moment in WWE this year. But Seth isn't going down that easy. I predict that Cody is going to hit a crossroads on Roman through a table, and then Seth is going to deliver a Phoenix Splash from the top rope through another table onto Moxley. Both teams are going to be absolutely destroyed, and we're going to get a finish where all four men are struggling to stand, and the crowd is going to be on their feet. The storytelling potential here is off the charts. If Roman and Moxley win, we get the triumphant return of the Shield, even if it's just the two of them, and Seth becomes the ultimate loser who betrayed his brothers for nothing. But if Seth and Cody win, then we're looking at a complete power shift in WWE. Seth proves he was right all along. Cody gets his revenge on Roman, and the Shield dies for good this time. But there's a third possibility that I don't think anyone is talking about. What if this match ends in controversy? What if Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline interfere to help Roman, causing a disqualification. Oh wait, there are no disqualifications. What if members of AEW show up to confront Moxley? What if we get more surprises that completely change the landscape? The rumors swirling around backstage are wild right now. There's talk of other former Shield members potentially appearing. There's speculation about whether this is a one-off return for Moxley or if he's signed a full-time deal. There are questions about whether WWE is building toward a Shield reunion tour or if this is just about settling old scores. What we do know is that this storyline has captured the imagination of the entire wrestling world. AEW fans are watching WWE again just to see Moxley. Lapsed fans who haven't watched in years are tuning in because the Shield meant something to them. And hardcore WWE fans are invested because the storytelling has been phenomenal. This is what wrestling is supposed to be. Real emotion, real stakes, real consequences. Not 50-50 booking, not random matches with no build, but a story that makes you feel something. A story that makes you want to see what happens next. A story that makes you want to argue with your friends about who's right and who's wrong. And that's why WWE absolutely nailed this angle. They took the most legendary faction of the modern era, they brought back a star everyone thought was gone forever, they created legitimate heat with a betrayal that hurts, and they're building toward a match that could be an instant classic. The question now is, where do we go from here? If the Shield wins, do Roman and Moxley continue as a team? Do they challenge for the tag team championships? Do they each go back to their respective singles runs? And what happens to Seth? Does he spiral out of control? Does he become even more dangerous in his desperation? If Seth and Cody win, does that solidify them as the top heel team in WWE? Do they run roughshod over the entire roster? Does Cody finally defeat Roman at WrestleMania with Seth in his corner? The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes great storytelling. One thing is absolutely certain though. Monday Night Raw will never be the same after this. The landscape has shifted. The players have changed. And the most shocking reunion in WWE history has created a moment that people will be talking about for decades. So what do you think? Are you Team Shield or Team Seth? Do you think Moxley should have come back? Is Roman Reigns a hypocrite for teaming with Moxley after everything that happened with the Bloodline? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now because this discussion is about to get heated. Make sure you're subscribed to WWE Reporter because we're going to have full coverage of this match, including post-match analysis, backstage rumors, and exclusive interviews you won't find anywhere else. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update on this story. The impossible happened. The Shield is back, even if it's only 2/3 of the original. Jon Moxley returned to WWE. Seth Rollins became the ultimate villain. And we're about to witness a match that will determine the future of professional wrestling. This is history in the making, people. Don't blink. Don't look away. Because what happens next will be unforgettable.